Radia the alpaca and the changing green land. The beginning village. Radia the alpaca lived with her family and friends in a small village high in the Andes Mountains. The village was surrounded by lush green meadows, and the alpacas never had to worry about food. In the center of the village, there was a clear spring that provided fresh water, and the alpacas lived peaceful days, quenching their thirst from it. However, as Radia grew older, she began to notice that there was less grass than before. Even so, Radia was too absorbed in grazing every day to think deeply about it. One day, Radia overheard the village elders talking about the past. "There used to be so much more grassland here, more than we could ever eat," one elder said. "Back then, wherever you went, there was endless green," another added. Hearing these words, Radia began to feel uneasy for the first time about the decreasing grass. Radia asked the adults, but no one knew the cause. The village had always been abundant in grass, so no one had ever needed to venture outside, and as a result, no one knew what lay beyond the village. The adults, feeling uncertain, tried to soothe Radia, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the village might be in danger if things continued as they were. A courageous decision. Life in the village remained as peaceful as ever, and Radia continued to spend her days with her family. However, the conversation she had overheard continued to linger in her mind. She kept recalling the stories of how the entire village was once covered in green, and the feeling of unease inside her grew stronger. One evening, Radia sat on the outskirts of the village, staring at the scenery before her. The grass was definitely decreasing. But why? Why didn't anyone go outside the village to find out the reason? These questions swirled around in Radia's mind. If things keep going like this, all the grass we eat might disappear. Radia murmured quietly. The next morning, Radia shared her decision with her family. "I'm going to go outside and find out what's happening." Her family was shocked. The outside world was an unknown place, full of potential dangers. But there was a strong resolve in Radia's eyes. Her mother, worried, asked, "But Radia, you don't know what awaits you in the outside world. Are you still going to go?" Radia nodded quietly. "I have to find out, so everyone in the village can eat grass in peace." The villagers gathered to see Radia off. The elderly alpacas wished her well, saying, "Be careful," but their expressions showed their concern. Even so, Radia took one determined step after another, leaving the village behind. Thus, Radia's adventure had begun. The journey begins. Meeting the vicuña. After leaving the village, Radia traveled along a rugged mountain path for a while. As the sun rose, the fog gradually cleared, revealing the landscape before her. The cold air typical of the highlands gently brushed through Radia's fur, filling her with a mix of excitement and a little anxiety about the new world. After walking for a while, she spotted a small herd in the distance. It was a group of vicuñas. When the vicuñas noticed Radia, they were initially wary, but, seeing that she posed no threat, they slowly approached. An old female vicuña, the leader of the group, spoke quietly to Radia. "It's rare to see such a young alpaca come this far. What brings you here?" Radia took a deep breath and explained what she had observed in the village. She told the vicuña leader about the dwindling grass, the stories the elders had shared about the past, and how she had set out on a journey to find the cause. The vicuña leader was silent for a while before quietly replying, "We have lived in these mountains for a long time, and it's true that recently there has been less grass. But we don't know why this is happening either. One thing is certain, though, The climate has been changing." Radia was surprised. "The climate is changing? What do you mean?" "There used to be more snow in these mountains," the leader explained. "In winter, the snow piled up deep, and in spring, it melted, providing plenty of water. But recently, there has been less snow. I believe this is affecting the grass." Radia listened in silence, trying to comprehend the significance of a changing climate on their lives. She didn't fully understand yet, but she knew it was related to the decrease in grass. "So, what should we do?" Radia asked the leader. "To find out, you need to learn more," the leader replied with a gentle smile. "We will stay in these mountains, but you should go farther and ask other animals. Your courage may show us a new path." Filled with gratitude, Radia bid farewell to the vicuñas and continued her journey. The wisdom of the Andean condor. As Radia continued along the mountain path, she came upon a steep cliff. Above the cliff, she saw the silhouette of a large bird soaring through the sky. It was an Andean condor. The condor's wings spread wide, dominating the sky, a true ruler of the heavens. Radia was mesmerized by the majestic sight and watched for a while. Then, she gathered her courage and called out to the condor. "Mr. Condor, you fly all around these mountains, right? With your keen eyesight, you must know why the grass is decreasing." The condor responded to Radia's voice and slowly descended near her. He stared at Radia with his large eyes, remaining silent for a moment. Then, in a quiet voice, he said, "Indeed, I have flown over these mountains and seen far and wide. But explaining why the grass is decreasing is not so simple." "What do you mean?" Radia asked. "Come with me. I have something to show you," the condor replied, leading Radia to the top of the cliff. Radia carefully climbed the cliff, finally reaching the summit. The view from the top was breathtakingly beautiful, but it also revealed something shocking. "Look, Radia, what was once green land is now dry and eroded." The condor pointed to the distant mountains. "This is the effect of climate change. With less rain and snow, the land has dried up, and the grass can no longer grow. The soil has become more prone to erosion as well." Radia was at a loss for words as she looked at the scene before her. "But, why is this happening?" "The forces of nature are powerful, but part of climate change has been brought about by human activities. Deforestation and large-scale agriculture in distant lands have altered the climate across the entire planet," the condor answered in a voice tinged with deep sadness. "We animals must adapt and survive despite these changes." "Adapt," Radia repeated the word. "Yes, we can fly to find new lands, but it won't be so easy for you. However, there must be other ways. Learn the wisdom of living in harmony with nature from the other animals," the condor advised. With the condor's words etched in her heart, Radia resolved to continue her journey. She believed that the next encounter would provide the clues needed to change their future. The guanaco's knowledge. Radia continued along the rugged path until she reached a dry highland. Once green, this place had now turned into brown, barren land. As the dry wind blew through, Radia noticed a moving shadow in the distance. It was a herd of guanacos. Despite the harsh environment, the guanacos were living strong. Radia approached them and asked how they managed to survive in such a place. The guanacos welcomed her warmly, but their expressions were stern, and their words carried weight. "We have lived here since this land was still rich. But as the climate changed, the grass stopped growing, and the land became drier," the guanaco leader explained. We had to learn to adapt, searching for new grazing lands and finding ways to endure the dryness. Radia was amazed. How did you learn to do that? First, we figured out how to conserve water. In this land, water is precious, so we don't waste a single drop. We also searched for plants that could grow in dry soil and survived by eating them, the leader continued. Moreover, we cooperate within the herd, sharing food so that everyone can survive. Radia was deeply impressed by their wisdom. As she listened to the guanacos, she realized that her village would also need to adapt in similar ways to survive. I will return to the village and share this knowledge with everyone. We must find new grazing lands and learn how to withstand the dryness, Radia said resolutely. The guanaco leader nodded. You are still young, but your heart is strong. Your courage will save your village. Remember, living in harmony with nature requires a flexible heart and cooperation. With deep gratitude, Radia bid farewell to the guanacos and set off on her mission to share this wisdom with her village. Returning to the village and a new way of life. Holding on to everything she had learned on her journey, Radia hurried back to the village. When she arrived, her worried friends and family were there to greet her. Radia, thank goodness you're safe, her mother said, tears in her eyes as she hugged her. Radia shared everything she had seen and heard on her journey with the villagers. She told them about the wisdom she had learned from the vicuñas, the condor, and the guanacos, about the effects of climate change, and the importance of adapting to nature. The villagers listened intently. We must not cling to the past but adapt to the changes ahead. Let's go in search of new grazing lands. Let's learn to share water and food and work together to survive, Radia said firmly. The village elder nodded deeply. Radia, you've done well. Despite your youth, you've brought back such great wisdom. We will trust your words and together carve out a new path. From that day on, the alpacas in the village began a new way of life based on Radia's story. Instead of clinging to the past, they focused on adapting to the future, which became the village's new theme. Radia's adventure brought hope and courage to the village. And Radia herself had grown greatly through this journey. She was no longer just a child but had become an indispensable member of the community, a young leader who would shape the future of the village. Radia's adventure had shown the alpacas a new way to live, fostering the strength to adapt to the great challenge of climate change. She learned the importance of living in harmony with nature, the power of cooperation among friends, and the significance of holding on to hope for the future. The village, now a changing green land, took its first step towards a new beginning, ready to continue living in harmony with nature.